came to one of our shows.
Yeah, he was.
I didn't even know it was him. And Jaustin was like, dude, that's the guy from Play My
I was
Taste.
talking to him for like 20 minutes. I was like, I feel like you were part of something.
Sense is like, you look at music, film, all that. It's like the way you're supposed to consume it or experience it is like in your headphones. You don't have to be in a specific space or setting to get the full experience. Mm-hmm. And then like the unique factors, you go to a concert, they play it a different way or whatever, play to the crowd. But when it comes to paintings like this and everything, it's like, yes, you can kind of experience it online, but you don't get the full experience until you're there with the scale, with the real color, with everything like that. And that's what I love to see is like, you're able to attract those people like Tyler, the Creator, to something where you might not have ever expected. Like, and it's not something he's announcing to be at, but there are people who do appreciate the literal like art, that the artists that put everything into it, and they want to go see that actual experience. And it goes to show too, like, so many people, you know, it's easily accessible for music, all that kind of stuff. For this, it's like the people who really understand it, they'll be there to see it, because even off the photo online, whatever, they're like, oh shit, there's an essence here that I have to go experience. I know there's more to it. And I think because it stays in kind of like one place, it's almost the most vulnerable an artist has to be, because music gets very influenced in, you know, it has a demand to the millions, all this kind of stuff. Film, same thing. There's a lot of money on the line. With this, in this art form, it's going like, this is the purest expression of that artist putting their work out. And, you know, some of
it's a physical object to like actually engage with, and like, you know, like as opposed to music where it is sonically. But yeah, like going back to like painters and like why we love to do this, because we're so involved in like the physical process of like what we're creating, rather than like trying to you know, like have it digitally consumed. Like there's a huge difference. There's a spiritual conversation we have with like material and like why we're creating through like what we're doing, and like there's more intention, and especially like working with like physical material, like as you know, with like pastel, with anything, started using like ash, you know what I mean, like ash that has like this decay or this ephemeral like type of like material, and like actually working with it, and then, you know, being able to see it like physically in like a space, you know, like you really like understand the depth and the dimension that like this is its own entity. It doesn't just live as a concept or a digital image, like it's literally alive, and it's living right here. And I think seeing art like that and seeing that intent to it makes me feel like the art that I'm creating and working through is it's more it's important to me, you know, and it's like I'm doing this for a reason. I'm creating something that's gonna last, you know, possibly, you know, longer than me, which is, I think, beautiful. You know, I think as painters we romanticize like legacy and like the idea of things like living longer, you know. So
Well, I think like because you're working with ash, or playing around, working with it. The thing is, like with me, I was like, dude, I gotta stop working with pastels because it's too alive. And I mean alive, like it's not curing. It doesn't dry, so it's getting rubbed off. I do shows, and then like I see people's backs sometimes, like he's rub into it because it's like fucking room packed with people, and I'm like, that's my color palette on your shirt. like shit like that. It's just like, how do I fix that? But maybe it's just like that is just a part of it. Maybe that is it.
I feel like recently I've been revisiting like my old paintings and just like standing there and like looking at them and like just interacting with them again, and I'll see like new like weird stuff like chips or this or that, or like, you know, something that wasn't there before, like it was obviously like rubbing on something and I wasn't storing it right, and I kind of just realized like this is like it now, you know, like this is like a part of it, this is a part of the story. And the other day I made this painting, and the canvas, I don't have much experience in stretching canvases, and the canvas came out really fucked up, like really wonky and everything. And I was gonna break it down, but I said no, and I put my mom's house on it, and it came out beautiful, and I gave it to her, and she was like, it's like broken, like the canvas is like weird, and it kind of just like, it was kind of like, yeah, but like that's like the point, like this house is, and like my memories here, like everything about it was just so like non-traditional, I feel like, and I don't know, it just like, I'm at like a point where I'm like living with those imperfections and I'm loving them, like it'll be like my favorite part about it.
That's I think we gotta accept that.
Yeah.
That's fucking huge. It's just like, I'm always trying to solve problems. Like, I'm always trying to fix it, make it perfect. I'm like, why is this not like perfect? I'm like, okay, now you gotta work with paints because this process isn't technically professional. If somebody were to get this and their kid were to rub onto it, now the painting's technically ruined. But it's just like being around a candle or something. It's just like why I put candles in shows is because it's like, there's fire, and if you do something to cause that fire to have a reaction, something can be ruined. So my whole thing is, if you're around a painting, be careful. But most people are like, it's dry, so who gives a fuck? Or it's framed, who cares? But with pastels, it's just like, no, if your kid's you're gonna lean on this shit, you're gonna ruin your fucking vitamins or whatever the fuck you're wearing, or denim tears or whatever the fuck it is you got on. Like, that shit's gonna be fucked. And getting pastels out is not easy. So I think it's just like a form of caution, like especially with what you're saying. It's just like it's not really broken. It's just like
it adds to the story.
Yeah, it's a part of it.
And to add to that, I started seeing my paintings as more like they're never finished in a way. Like as much as like we could say this is objectively done, like my intent now, I think going forward with the paintings that I have, like they're never gonna be finished because art is unlimited, right? Art is source, art is connected to this unlimited thing. Like who am I to say this is a finished painting? No way. And so I think that's what I'm doing now, like reflecting on like the 30 paintings I have, like that I think are done, like just kind of looking at them again and saying, what else can I do to like transform them? And I take a lot of inspiration from this German artist, like Ansel, like Kiefer, and like he says it like best too. Like he works in like extreme like large scale, and like he uses like debris and like things in his paintings, and like it ends up like falling out like when he's transporting them, and he's like it's part of it now. Like, and then at that point it's like, wow, like it's never done. Art is never finished. Like art will never be finished. It never ends with us. I think taking that approach to like the paintings now is it creates like, or like it's like less like pressure on making it like perfect in a way. I just have to like, if I don't like it, I'm gonna keep working on it. I'm gonna keep like building on it. Maybe a year or two later, and then like it becomes something that was like I never knew it was gonna become. And then now it's at this point of like no return, where it's just maybe it's utterly like fantastic, or it's just fucking disgusting. And like I just have to accept it as it is. But I think the point is that like it's never finished. Art will never be done.
Did you always, and this question is for Robert, did you always feel like you were an artist? Is that something that you had to realize and grow into? Or is that something that you felt was always within you from your earliest stages? Like at what point did you accept the term of artist?
Yeah, I feel like it was always in me, but I never thought that was like an attainable path for me. Like I never saw it as like my future. I don't know what changed. I think I just like was at a really real low, and I needed to just like get some things off of my chest.
Yeah, transmute that.
And
energy.
yeah, and it came out as paintings. And I didn't call myself an artist for a long time. It might have been like that show that I met you guys at was like, okay, like I do this now.
I remember.
Yeah. But yeah, like I didn't feel there within myself yet to tell other people that,
Yeah.
But then I got there and here we are.
I think it's something that just like gets thrown onto you. They're like, oh, you're an artist. I'm like, what? And I had my cousin. It was like when I started like painting abstractly, because I went to art school. I was kind of like diverted, and I was like, I'm gonna paint abstractly. And she's like, you make fine art now. And I was like what? Like, no, I don't. Like, I paint what I
Do
like.
stuff.
Yeah, I just do stuff. And it's like, and I think we're conditioned too, like from an early age, that like art isn't accessible. And being an artist isn't even like a feasible idea to like approach. Even if you like took art classes and did that, like it's just hobby, you know what I mean? Like you don't ever like take it seriously until you go through shit, until you feel like in your soul that like, fuck, like everything I'm doing is not working right now, or like there's so much weight on me, like how do I just transmute this, like what do I do? And I think for you and I, like, and Brandon, like there's the visual part of it, and visually seeing the world and visually like creating through it. As much as we could do it through other mediums, I think we had a calling for like the visual arts in particular, and it just kind of showed up. It was never like a self-proclamation of like, I'm a fucking artist. It was just, it happened, and then people were like, oh, you're an artist. I'm like, cool, I guess, you know.
I think like the title of it was pretentious for a long time for me. It's like, why would I call myself an artist? It's so, I just see it in everybody's bio, and I'm like, fuck, like a form of rejecting it. Like, I'm not, fuck you, I'm not an artist. Fuck you. Like, it's like they do one painting or one piece, and it's like artist, and I'm like, fuck that, I'm not an artist. So I was just like, it took me like fucking 5 years to call myself an artist. Like, I just didn't like the term. I didn't like the idea of self-declaring myself as being an artist. And it took a while, a form of confidence for me to be like, you're an artist. Like, there's like millions of people that do millions of different job titles. That's just a part of your fucking title. You know, you're not gonna not call yourself a banker or whatever just because you're all the people that work in the same building as you go by the same title. So you're like, for me, it's like I have to just accept. Like, it, to me, it's just like pretentious for some reason. Like, because there's just so many people just, you know, claiming this or like throwing this word out or this title out, and I didn't like that, and I was just like rebellious against it. So I just like I didn't tell I was an artist or whatever. I don't even remember what I told people. I think I just said I made art, and they said, "Oh, you're an artist." I was like, "No, I just make art." Like, I was like, "That's what I do."
Did you attach some sort of like monetary success to the title? Like, you have to prove yourself in some sort of monetary way before you can accept the title? And has your sentiments changed since you started calling yourself an artist?
You know what? That's actually true. I think I was trying to challenge myself to earn it. You
Yeah.
know, like
I do that.
you know, like you want to earn that title.
Yeah.
Like what? But nobody's gonna really tell you when you earn it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's yourself. Like you're the only person that's gonna be like, all right, I did it. I made it. I'm successful. This is it. Artist in bio. Yes. This is it. It's it.
No, I'm curious with y'all though. Is like, I was thinking about like audience, right? So you look at someone like Warhol, Basquiat, all that kind of stuff, right? Warhol knew he had an audience where if he pissed on a painting, he'll do fine. Someone's gonna buy it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't imagine in his mind he's going, oh, the people will love this. He's just knowing, like, he has that kind of like creative freedom because he's in that space where art goes out, whatever happens with it, doesn't matter what it's
Branding.
right? Yeah.
You understand his brand.
So I'm just thinking like in the creation process, especially like the different levels and everything, how much consideration is there? Is it sometimes overwhelming to try to think about the audience, like who's gonna be there? Because like you're saying, people will come and like, if you had an audience that understood what your materials were, they know they're not going to push up against stuff.
That's like fire. It's like you.
Right.
Everybody knows. Ooh, no.
But when you have to present your work to an audience that doesn't know that, you have to then make those precautions.
Right.
So is it? How, I guess I'm trying to ask, like, how much consideration is like the audience that will be viewing it, that should be collecting whatever? Does it go into it a lot? Does it like is it
I mean, I think I try to never think about the audience, but like with anything that you're putting out into the world, you naturally do. Like you'll hear a lot of musicians talk about how they thought that this was going to be a #1 hit and it wasn't, but it's like their personal favorite. And I don't know, I feel like that kind of thing happens a lot.
Yeah.
I think going into it, not thinking about the audience is like the most important part for the process. So like you are conversating with yourself, and you are talking about your internal dialogue. And I think after like a certain time working on something, you start to realize that you are the audience. You yourself are the first person observing the art. Like as much as we are the creator, we are also like the audience, the observer. And we're the first observers in that sense. And assuming that we have the right acumen to understand that what we're creating is intentional, like I think, it goes in tandem. Like it's hard not to think about the audience because I am the audience in a way too, But yeah, not letting that jade you from the fact that like you're supposed to be making art that you love and is intrinsically like part of you, and that's what you're expressing. I think, that's what we do as artists too. Is like that's our job. That's our goal, is to like say our perspective and like through our lens. Because if it wasn't for that, I think that's a differentiation between like, at least in my head, like fine art or commercial art. Art that is serving like a commercial audience, or fine art where it's serving the internal like purpose of that person's soul, and that's being transmuted out into the world. And because of that, although I think we reach like depths that like, we don't see too much in commercial art. We reach like, in the fine art in that sense.
I feel like when it comes to audience, I find myself like when I put things out there for the world to consume, it always does best when I genuinely don't give a fuck. So what I find myself doing is trying to gaslight myself into not giving a fuck, but secretly I give a fuck. And then I don't get the results. I'm like, I'm just not gonna give a fuck, I'm just gonna put it out there, and it never works. And it's just like actually being able to tap into the not giving a fuck and just doing it for the love of it. I find myself chasing that, and I'll get it, and then I'll get the whatever success I was looking for, and then I start giving a fuck again, and then I have to go back and trying to chase the not giving a fuck, and it's a constant cycle of that. I don't know if you guys.
You think in a way like not giving a fuck is like you chasing your internal happiness first, and then it comes. Or is that what you mean by not giving a fuck?
For me, not giving a fuck is being very neutral. Like it's not like I'm not doing it for myself. I'm not doing it for other people. I'm just doing it because I just had a feeling to do it. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It's like it's a really weird feeling. It's just like genuinely not giving a fuck. Like it's indifference. When I actually experience that, the universe always rewards it, and I find myself constantly chasing that, if anything.
Indifference. I like that.
Yeah.
Like I've seen stuff similar in the sense of like someone will sell a piece, right, to a collector, but then what's interesting is you'll start seeing the following pieces or work that come out look very similar to the one that got collected. It's going, wait, that was one person who enjoyed that take on it. There's more people, but then you're finding an influence in that one that is now owned by that person, and it's this innate influence from that person. Versus they like that first iteration of that expression of you in that very moment. You're not taking away from that by creating something more that they like. Because even already when it comes to some people collecting at these levels and everything, it's like it's still a very small percentage. So it's not like there's just a mass amount of people that are like, 100,000 people are going to take this $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 painting. They saw it because they recognized that moment when it was created. So it's interesting to see that that kind of cycle. Like you'll see the influence of, I just hit big on that one. Let me try to make it like that one. Where it's like you weren't trying that when you made that one, but now people can see that in those next ones that you're trying to do that thing again. What they like was the novelty of that one. So if you can repeat the novelty versus repeat the trick, whatever, it's like that's what I think they'll buy into. It's what I've seen at least is it's these people who are investing in these artists. I mean, it's the innovation that they're chasing after, not the consistency. They know they see what they like what they see. They buy the first one, but now they're going like they did something I didn't see before, and I think they can continue doing that. If you keep giving what they've seen before, now it's like, we've seen it.
But then chasing novelty also becomes so exhausting.
I'd say innovation more so.
Even that, like I feel like that's in my opinion that's rooted in our very capitalistic society where we constantly have to chase innovation to where it's like we end up doing the complete opposite. If that makes sense. I don't know. There's the constant chase for innovation and novelty. It's so draining to the soul because there's something so beautiful everyone wants to be known for doing something different. But to me, what gives me the warmest feeling is when I realize something that I thought that was so unique to me, it's not unique to me. I'm sharing it with other people. Like when somebody's able to perfectly encapsulate an experience that I thought was super unique to me, and I realized, oh my gosh, other people feel that. It's like there's so much beauty in similarity, and I think that we try so hard to get away from that. But if there's a way that we can capture that in a very unique, personal way, it touches people way more than giving somebody something that they've never seen before. At least that's what I noticed with how I interact with art and media and whatever it is.
I think I just said like so many great points were touched on. It's just like not thinking about the viewer when you're making work. It's like I think about it like it's like I want to talk to filmmakers. Like when you're producing or directing this film, are you thinking about the audience? Like really, are you thinking about the audience? Are you thinking about what they want to see? So it's like a lot of the times they'll do, before they put the movie out, they'll have like a select few of people can see it, test audiences, they could put like what they like, don't like. And so in that sense, there is a form of like, let's share it with the select people to judge it. And then we can kind of get the idea of what to fix and what to change or what to add, whatever. So I'm like with painting or art in general or content creation, whatever we're doing, it's like true artistry comes from what you're able to create. And I think what makes great art in a sense is like for people to connect with it without you intentionally creating something for this invisible audience that may or may not see it. And that's the huge thing for me is like if I have a show, I never make a painting for the show.
Yeah.
I make paintings every day, and when I have a show, I put those paintings in because the issue comes with this is like, I'm doing a show, say I'm doing a show at this gallery located here, and I'm like, oh, they love this type of art. So I'm like, I'm gonna make 3 paintings in this style because they like, this is what they may want.
Yeah.
Turns out they don't either show up, or I've had times where there's people telling me they love this painting of mine. And I was like, maybe I should put this in a show because they said they like it. And then it turns out they don't even show up to the show. Yeah. And it would have ruined the entire curation of everything. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, for me, I never, I try to, like every painting I do, is it when I'm sharing things, it's already done.
Yeah.
Because I need the final approval. Because if I'm working in progress and I'm sharing something that's not finished and I'm already getting it judged or not getting any reaction, it's causing like, oh shit, it's not good enough. I need to fix something because nobody cares about something. But everything I do, if the process is just a process, it's already finished. And I like it enough to share that process step by step. But I'm already looking at a finished painting that I've accepted.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of silence the audience. Because if I finish it and I like it, then I know that it's truly something that I made myself and I'm willing to put out there. And those that appreciate it can, and if not, that's okay. That's like how I've accepted things a lot too. You know, because I know how to make art for people. You know, but I don't want to do that. You know, I want to make art for myself. And not thinking about the audience is probably something that I think you're gonna die like fucking trying not to think about the audience, because you're always gonna think about the viewer. It's impossible.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's possible.
Yeah.
Because you want people to be like, feel something.
It takes the feedback. Like it's
Yeah.
the given. You're putting yourself out there so that someone goes, either I hate it or I love it. Like,
Yeah, like I think the viewer is a part of the art. They may not be part of the creation, but they're still a part. They're a part of it in a sense. Like it's a performance.
like if you're showing it, you're like inevitably like you're accepting that people will react, and almost expecting that people will in any way, shape, or form react. That's one of my struggles, honestly, because coming from a marketing background, like how I know to do everything is how to like position it towards specific people. art is not that. It's you're creating it from, internally, not thinking about the rest of the people. So I'm always finding myself in this, like, having to work backwards, because I'll first start like, well, who's supposed to be seeing it? Who's supposed to be enjoying this? That part I'm really good at. The part where I'm going, like, what do I want to tell them without thinking about them? I'm like, take the audience out of the equation. What do you mean? Like, it's very difficult, honestly, in the creative process. It's almost anything that I create, it's a part of the creative process of, let me think about who's going to experience this. Because if I can think about what that kind of, like, those four walls look like, who will engage with it, then I can craft something that, because I find it interesting to see what their reactions are. If I can predict what the reactions are, or have an idea and create around that, I'm curious to see what happens outside of those predicted expectations. But as far as my creative process with a few paintings, whatever I do, it's still very hard to actually take out the audience innately. It's almost a part, it's like another material in my sense.
Yeah, but like back to what you were saying, it's like I feel like also you can't take out the audience, and it's like a part of the process, but you have to try not to let it influence art, because then it's tainted. It's like convoluted at that point.
Yeah.
Once it's tainted, it's fucking just. It's like putting the wrong seasoning on your food. It's like you can try to rinse it off. It's still meat, but it's just gross. It's like now you gotta fucking paint over or whatever.
I think a practice to like get rid of that external voice, like jading like your intuition for creating, is like really locking the presence. The presence as when you're really locked in on painting, right? Like you're in flow. You're not consumed by ideas other than that, So I think for me it's just been like just starting the painting. I think all the heaviness, all like I need to be making this, I need to set this intention for what I'm creating, like goes away when I just start it, and I'm just like, this is what I'm just letting like subconscious kind of like flow through the action, and just like being the art. Because I think a lot of the time art isn't about like producing art, it's literally seeing the world as art and seeing like everything like through a lens, through a beauty, through like a sense of love and appreciation for like a frame, a moment. Even like coming here, right? Like seeing like the ambiance and seeing like the shadows, right? Like, this is beautiful. Like I love like the whole like interior, everything. That's what I think is being an artist, because we are in a sense like creation ourselves, And I think when we take that approach, we're just kind of like transmuting like what it is we're supposed to be doing, and it takes a lot of pressure away and takes the ego out. Because like I feel like the ego can like definitely like take away from authenticity for a certain art. Because then you could see it, you could see it like in the art, in the music, in anything. Like if it's like what is being on the forefront, is it you or is it the ideas and what you see? You know what I mean? So yeah.
And I think it's when it comes to thinking about the audience, I feel like it makes sense after the fact. Create the art that you want to create that touches you, and then once it's done, think like, who do I feel like this can connect with, that I can reach with, to, and I think that that's a good balance. It's like they should come into account at some point, but after the art has already been created. Because even like when we were talking about these paintings, like from the very first show, I was just like, I feel like this would connect with my friend Micaiah so much. And the more and more I talk to you about your story, I'm like, oh my gosh, Micaiah would do that. Oh my God, Micaiah did this about his dad. And oh my gosh, like you guys would connect. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's beautiful. And I wasn't thinking about it in like, oh, like this person would be good to sell it to. I was thinking about like whose soul do I feel like this can touch. And I think that's a beautiful thing actually, to think about the audience in that sort of way.
We approach it with love,
Yeah.
And like when that love is transmuted, like other people admire it, people can feel like it. That's the thing, like going back to like how art is physical, like we could really feel like the physical labor, the intent behind the stroke, the dimension of it. That's why we love it, like it's. I think that's all it is. Like it's just art is love, love is art, and we're just transmuting that into canvas, which. It makes everything easier, it makes it less about like, I'm supposed to be selling this, but more so about like, this is what I'm supposed to be creating. And I think when we align ourselves to higher frequencies like that, we're able to really create like authentic art that like really resonates with like our souls and ourselves, and then will resonate with other people. You know, no matter the subject matter, like as long as it's resonating with you and you really feel it, like, other people are gonna feel it as well. I mean, that's just the natural reaction of it.
Has there been a time where you felt like you weren't making authentic art?
Yes. Yeah. I think starting out.
Yeah.
I think starting out, especially like in art school and like kind of having a nude model and then just painting them and then drawing them. I felt in that moment too. I was like, this is like cool, but like this isn't. I'm not making art. Like I'm like working on the craft. I think there's craft and then there's artistry, and that's how like I separate like how I approach like my paintings now and how I've been like ever since art school and but in those moments where you're just working on technicality and like you're not really like using any information that resonates with you, like you're just kind of doing it just to do it, you know. And I think the intent now is to always like have intent with creating, and like even if it's just a drawing or a sketch, like having an intention and setting that intention, like this is what I'm doing, you know. And I think when I set that intention, I'm always making art that I like and like will resonate with me. But, yeah.
Turning the audience off is crazy. I think like when I'm in here painting and I just like put jazz music on because it's that constant flow. There's no interruptions. Jazz music is just, you know what you're getting. You're getting it. You're getting it. You're getting it. And that's why I put jazz music on, because I'm flowing. And then it's just like I get lost, and I think there's a way to turn the audience off. And then at a certain point, it's like a weird switch for me. Is where I'll wake up from this like haze, and I'll be like, I'll look at it, and I'll be like, this is shit. But it was just me making something in a state of just me. I think it's like it comes so like sometimes like very like slowly, and like the challenge for me is like trying to make my work better every single time, because I'm like, well, how can I fucking max this out? And then I like look at other fine art painters that are selling like $50,000-$60,000 paintings at auction and more, and they're just like painting a dot on a canvas. It's like, I think like you can't really max it out. It's art, you know. It's just like we all want to push ourselves to try to create like something that the audience or whoever the fuck is gonna love, but it's like then you have this dude like painting a dot or smearing shit on a canvas and it sells for $100K.
Yeah.
Like,
isn't that crazy though? Because like that's still a testament to, at some point he captured the right audience.
yeah.
That's his current work. That's his current work,
That's your
right?
marketing mind. Like,
I know. I'm just saying, like the only way people get up there is they got that one art dealer that knows where to put that and what home to put it in.
Luck too, you know, and that's why like
They were a brand at that point.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Damien Hirst, is that his name?
yeah, Damien.
I hate his art.
Yeah. It was great at one point, and it just went like. I like the like the animals and like the tanks and stuff was just like pure genius as fucking like, you know, people think about like it has like a crazy meaning behind it. And I've like that stuff was insane to me. And then he started doing NFTs and shit. I was like, oh, whatever. But
would you ever put something out that you felt wasn't good, but you felt somebody, because art is so subjective, like
Yeah.
something that you genuinely like, I don't like this and I don't think it's good, but I'll put it out into the universe and see.
No.
I think he's really thinking it's already.
Well, like I've put things out that I don't really love anymore, but I loved it when I made it. And my whole thing behind that is like, I don't know, like someone might really love this and they're just never gonna see it because I'm never gonna post a picture of it. Like that's kind of silly, like, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe everybody hates it, who cares? But at least like if it hits that one person, then it's a win, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like it's one of those struggles in like fine art as an industry, right? It's like if your goal is to be like, successful, whatever that bar may mean to you, but like a working artist in the fine art space, and you're saying that what you're doing moving forward to grow your, you know, get more people buying the art or whatever it might be, show more work, it's difficult because there's like innate acceptance that it's an industry, which means if you're selling art, then it's a business. And I think that's a big like difficulty with a lot of people is finding that balance of like, I do want to create freely in a utopian world. Like, I wish I didn't have to do anything else, but then we have to pay for things. So I always run into that too. It's like, I don't want to have to make for other people. I want to do my ideas, but I want to pay my rent.
Dude.
So then I'm like, I gotta do the business thing.
I think that in order to like make the best art you can make and not compromise that is that you need to get money from somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's what I've been talking
Yeah.
about all day today.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Until you're able to live off of your art.
Yeah.
In a week, a year, fucking 30 years.
I think a lot of artists are in that state. Like even like I used to hang around like artist run galleries, like Monte Vista Gallery, like that whole like building over there, and like a lot of them are working like government jobs. They're doing like their own full time, and then in their free time like they contribute, you know, their art, and like they run their shows and everything. But I think going back to though like not putting out work that like I don't like. I think it's like it's hard for me to just like put something out there when I know that like this is shit, I guess, or in my head of like I can't do it, like just for myself, you know, like I get like our standard kind of like changes over time, but I think for the most part like you know when you make something right and you're like this is fucking it, and you know when you make something because like we're gonna make bad art, it's like inevitable, you know, we make shit art all the time, but like let's say like 1 out of like 50 is a fucking banger, and then we're like, this is it. Like that's what we do it for. It's like get those moments of like. So I think it's okay to make shit art, bad art. Look at like Picasso's career. Like look at any like great artist's career. Like they have periods of just like really shit art, you know, and then they move on to the next idea, and they're like, holy shit, like here we go. Like now he's changing like the landscape of the art world, you know. So I think it's okay to make bad art, and we should be making bad art. If we're not making bad art, we're not really like going for it, you know.
Right.
What I mean?
Yeah. Not creative.
That's what I like about it though, like the right of the artist is for someone to say, I want that one, you'd be like, no. I'd be like, why not? I don't like it. You can have it.
I think like people need to look back a lot like in history with artists back in before Picasso, around like Vermeer and shit, like Pearl Earring, and think around those days. Go on YouTube and watch documentaries of like painters from the 1800s and stuff. They were doing the exact same thing we're doing right now. They're thinking the exact same way we were thinking. Everything is still the same. We have the same exact problems as they did back then. We just have more technology. And these problems still to this day are not being solved because we're still talking about it right now all together. We're still feeling exactly how they felt. We just have iPhones. So like, and we're able to, it's just like crazy because I'll be watching these things from like the 1800s, and painters would get together in like pubs and shit, talk about all this shit, dealers, everything. And I'm like, I was just talking with Bloom. Like what? And we were just sitting like bitching about this. It's like, these are like, these things, it's still here. Like, I don't think there's a real answer to it. I think that's just a part of being an artist, just that form of discussion and acceptance. Like, we're always just like, we all have this, like, we're not feeling anything new. The only thing new is just like the technological advancements. You know, war has been around before us. There was jets, like all this shit. Like, this isn't new. So it's just like, I think like there's one of my favorite artists like had to take 2 years off from painting because their father banished them from picking up a paintbrush because they didn't want them to be the artist. And it turned out this is like one of the greatest painters of art of all time, and they're in like some of the biggest museums in the world, and they couldn't paint for years because their dad just didn't like them painting, and so they had to work in a fucking mine or some shit, you know. And then like, you know, so it's like, even just thinking about like Van Gogh and shit, just like struggling to find an audience. Like, he painted all this shit, and it's just like, nobody liked his painting. And now we do. how do you think of the audience? It's like Van Gogh didn't think about us. He thought about the people that were in his life at that moment. So what are we thinking is like our audience may not even be here right now, dude. They might be like, fuck it.
That's pretty simple.
What that makes me think of though is, do you think art needs controversy to make an impact? Like the reason why the Mona Lisa became so famous is because it was stolen at a certain point, and there was a huge, search to find the Mona Lisa. Before that, it was just like a whatever painting in whatever museum it was in. But then once there's controversy behind it, somebody needs to cut off their ear, or somebody needs to like do something that has like some sort of like controversy attached to it for it to really
make it good art. Like there's notoriety like equate to good art.
Yeah, like do we feel like we attach the controversy to the art, and
like
that's what makes it.
Yeah, like Warhol intersecting with pop culture.
In a sense, it could be right, but I think no, not at all, because there's so many paintings at auction and stuff that go for hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars, and there's no controversy around it at all whatsoever. I don't think controversy builds great art. I think it just makes people conversate and talk about it.
It laments it in like history in some ways, in like pop culture per se. But if we're talking about like contribution to like art and like artistic like endeavor, probably not.
Yeah.
But going back to what you're saying about like how art is like art back then in the pub and everything, like 1800, we're talking about the same thing. I think that hits on like we talked about earlier, like how art is like cyclical, like how we're contributing to our timeline here, like what is contemporary with the events that are happening right now, in the world, external things that are happening right now, wars, genocide, like death, like what is like that. I think we talk about this too, of like why does it feel hard to create right now? Like why is it like hard to just like put stuff out there? It's because the world is like on fire, and we really like sense it. And it's in the collective mindset that like we are going through like heavy times right now, and it isn't our time now to like transmute that information, but to just experience it as it's happening right now, and to feel it with our fellow people, because we're all human, we all exist in the collective, and like what's going on out there, like we could very much feel too, you know what I mean? It isn't outside of us, and so I think, like we are right now experiencing that turmoil, and I think, when our time comes, like we're going to be able to, have a conversation with that, because I think history itself is like material, like we can manipulate a history that we can like bring into like a more contemporary like setting that fits us now, because that's what we're supposed to do as artists. I think that's our mission, is to transmute like what it is like that's happening right now, and that's because we're not only artists, but we're also historians, we're journalists.
Right.
We're lamenting the timeline that we're in, and I think when we take up that mantle and we say this is the work is bigger than me, I think that's what comes with it, and it's heavy. You know what I mean? It's fucking heavy to like really feel for the shit that's going on out there, and like really see the visuals, and like it fucks with me. It takes me out of like my own like world, and I'm like, holy fuck, like this is what I'm experiencing, because they're me too. You know what I mean? Like it's not they're doing their own. They're just people, and I feel heavy, and I think when we feel that like distress, like we can't just create through it. We just have to feel it and observe and advocate for like what we're supposed to be as people, because at the end of the day, like we are people first, and then artists, creatives, whatever it is. And I think when we worry about the input of like living not only for ourselves but for them, I think we could the art comes later, and we get to transmute like ideas that are bigger than us, and we get to contribute to a time that's bigger than us, and now we're contemporary artists. You know what I mean? I think that's how I see it. That's how we contribute to the time rather than take away from it.
So you feel that pressure to make sure your art reflects what's going on in current times, or do you feel like just naturally what goes on in current times affects you and that shows in your art?
Yeah, I think the latter. I think it's a natural reaction to like what's going on, because like that. I mean, we're working within ourselves, but we're also working within the world, And I think the world obviously has an effect on us, unless we're just completely shut out, right? And we're living in our own like kind of boat, which is like we could do that, you know what I mean? And we could create through that. But I think how I see it and contributing to like a higher conversation other than myself, and saying art is bigger than a commercial level, on an emotional level, on a spiritual level. Like those are the conversations we have to have and we have to tackle. And right now, that's not the time to transmute it, but it's our time to like conversate about it and to really like feel for it, because I mean we're taking up that energy, and then that energy is going to be pushed out later through our creation. So I think acknowledging it is like the first step, and then saying like, okay, like what else can we do about it? And I'm not saying like we're going to change the world and say like we are going to like make it more notable or anything like situation or anything, but it's just more so like this is what's happening, like this is what we're supposed to be like realizing, and this is what we're going to be transmuting, and in a way like taking up like a higher intention for the art, rather than just like this is what it is.
That was fucking beautiful.
It's heavy times, it's heavy stuff going on.
How do you guys like deal with like blockages and I guess you spoke about that a little bit, but I don't know. Brandon, how do you deal with like, do you ever go through periods where you're not creating? And how does that make you feel? And how do you deal with those feelings?
Dude, that's heavy. Like when I was in Sacramento, it was easy for me to not work because my rent was so cheap. I was like seriously paying $675 for an apartment. Was at 19, I worked at Target. One check, rent is done. I would make a piece once every 6 months, and I was comfortable with that. And I was making work so out of pace of myself. My friend was like, "You need to make more work. Like this is really fucking good." I was like in my prime in my digital era, just pumping out the best pieces possible. My friend was like, "Why are you making work twice a year?" It was like, because I want to. I was just doing fucking whatever the fuck I wanted. I was like the best. And then now it's just like, I am not allowing myself to accept any down periods is a terrible thing. When you feel like burned out, you have to accept that there needs to be, you need to give yourself time. Like, and I'm not doing that. And I think that you can keep, like, I'm still figuring it out because that's such a big question for me, is like, just being.
Yeah.
Just like, I know I'm an artist. I don't have a paintbrush in my hand right now, and that's all right. Like, I don't need to feel guilty about that, but there's a form of guilt that's like, I'm not doing enough. I could be painting, I could be doing this right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I'm in such a business mode, like business mindset, and I think it's not a bad thing, but like, I think like your true self, like to give yourself like time to just reflect on like what you were saying a lot, just being human.
Yeah.
I don't know, and just maybe
Embracing
doing something else
sadness.
for a second. That's not bad.
It's needed.
It's hard to like detach guilt with downtime when everything is coming from survival mode.
In a culture where we're supposed to be working all the time, and
like,
this is like the ebb and flow of like American culture, what we're supposed to be doing. It fucks with you, especially it doesn't fit the artist's lifestyle. Like, it doesn't fit the creative output because we work in down periods, we work in up periods. Like to attach that 9 to 5 mindset to it, it's like I feel like it can take away, especially like now at least, like what we're supposed to be creating. But there's a balance for sure. I think not having to think about art all the time and just locking, like maybe just cooking something, right? And saying like I'm still being artistic in this medium, or like watching a movie, or like even like shooting video, taking photos of like things you like. I think, like I said earlier, like art, being an artist is a sense of like seeing the world. It's not a sense of output. Like if you take 2 years break, 3 years break, you're still gonna be an artist. You know what I mean? Like, you're still gonna be like who you are. Like that doesn't change nothing. So I think it's okay to embrace stagnations too, because I think when we're in those modes and we're putting that, the universe is telling us like, hey, we gotta slow down. like slow your roll so that you can like get back on like to your higher self in a way.
Well, think of like musicians in a sense. Some musicians will have long periods between albums, and they're not even making music at that point. They're not in the studio for years. They can make an amazing album, and then there's this 3-4 year gap. What were they doing? And it's just like
Live and laugh.
they were just living. They were just being.
Be there.
They were just.
Well, if you get
existing.
someone who's making like the saddest songs back to back to back, like you need them to go experience something sad for a little bit. To be
True.
able to
Yeah.
come back
Right.
and-
They need more content.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
But I was gonna say to answer more into your questions, like the guilt of not doing anything for a day is truly the worst feeling. Like to say I did nothing today and feel happy. Just like you go on the internet, anything. It's just like fucking hustle, everything. It's just like, how do I accept? Like, how do I have a day where I don't fucking do a fucking thing and not feel like a piece of shit?
Yeah.
Can we do that? Can I do that? Like, I want that. Like,
But going back to what he was saying about how, or you were both were saying about how artists need time to go experience life. Does it ever scare you that when you finally get to that place of comfort, like I made it, like I'm selling 50K paintings, 60K paintings, that your art now is gonna suffer because that drive in you that drove you to create, that inspired you, the struggle and all these things that you had to experience because money couldn't buy you comfort at every single corner and pocket of your life, all of that is gone. How is that going to impact your art? Is that something that you guys think about? Because I feel like I see that so often with people. They reach a certain point, and it's like, I think Drake even quoted it. He's like, my music, like I make so much money now, my music isn't even relatable anymore. And you know, like,
I think it goes down to the artist's intention, right? Like if
Yeah.
they're doing it because they love the art they make and they're always gonna make the art, or are they doing it for commercial reasons, right? And saying
Yeah.
like, and then you see in like rappers, especially musicians, like they chase after like a sound and they like monetize a trend, and then they can't get back up again because they just, you know. So it's like I think always keeping the intention true to the art is how we become less, you know.
Even to your point though, is like I think I've told you about this. I was reading this book and they were talking about these collectors, and I think they're talking about like the collective around Basquiat and like that, and they were talking about the malicious side of fine art space and these collectors that are going get the prices of these artists' work up, but only get it so much that you can keep your artists in debt. Because their whole purpose of keeping their artists in debt was that their best art comes from when they're in turmoil. So introduce them to a luxury lifestyle, get these prices up, but don't teach them how to use the money, just keep them in debt so they keep making this work for you. And that was like insight on how that level of art works, and I'm going like holy shit, like this is it, that's malicious, that is like fucking tragic.
yeah.
So to like see that there is validity to going like, oh yeah, a lot of the best work comes from the darkest places, but you know, how do you try and balance that as you're trying to get to these levels, you know?
And even that, like the way people tend to report about artists of color, black artists, people talk about Basquiat, you hear so much about his struggles. You see it as a very like sad story of a tale, you know, but then like seeing the way his family kind of talks about his art, you get a holistic, like you see him as a person, you see him outside of the turmoil. And I think a lot of black artists, they focus on the depressing parts, the saddest parts of your story to kind of forever keep them in that, and you don't get a holistic view of their art. Like it wasn't all sad, it wasn't all bad, but a lot of the times they frame it in that way to kind of keep you in that state. So when you think about a lot of black artists, and you think about a lot of black musicians, you think about their death, you think about their mental illness, you think about things of that nature. And it's not just black artists, it's just like artists in general, but I found that to be really interesting, that you don't really know much about a lot of artists outside of the thing that was their
They're
demise.
controversial.
Yeah, their
Yeah.
controversy.
Yeah, for sure.
So it was this one. There was like stories running around New York where it's just like he was locked in the basement and they were feeding him drugs so he can make this best work. Now nobody really necessarily knows if it was true or not, but like, you know.
There were some like ugly stories of like Warhol just abusing him. No.
That's my frustration though too, right? Is if you already know the people who are saying it was good work or bad work, that was 15 people that like set that market or set that
Yeah.
conversation.
Mhm.
It wasn't us going to the exhibition being like, this isn't so good. Was he on drugs? Like it wasn't, you know what I'm saying? It was the people that are creating the narrative around that you know, wealth essentially that are saying it was good or bad when he was this or that way. So then you're like, well, what? Maybe y'all just knew he wasn't taking drugs, and they were like, well, we just want him more fucked up.
I think there's like a form of control that people want to have. Like when they have something that's making them money, it's like this, like art, like celebrity handlers. Like some celebrities have like handlers,
Yeah.
where it's like, let's keep this person in line, like because this is our source of income. I just bought 3 fucking houses, and if I can't keep my fucking person in line, then I lose my townhouse.
There's
So
I'm
it's
telling
like-
you, there's a collector. She's telling me don't even look at the auction prices. Don't look at any of that shit because that level, the mega galleries, all that. Wish you the best. You might sell 10,000, 50,000, whatever, but that shit, those people are playing so many games. That's the easiest investment for them. It's the most controllable market because a lot of these bankers, they're not going in unless they spend $100,000. And they know, oh, I can control a whole market around this artist, and that in 10 years I can create their work, like make it 3 times more. Great, I control that market. It's so maliciously controlled at that level, and what are you supposed to do about that shit?
Is that like a level that you guys have thought about or like wanted to reach?
So
Like,
for me, I like observing it, right? Because it's that like it's a competition thing. I see that it's achievable, and I'm going. I can see all the things that are wrong with it. But when I'm seeing things go to auction and they're getting sold for twice the expected value at $400,000, I'm going. Something's happening here. There's ways for this to work, right? But I'm accepting that there's this specific audience of, let's just say 50 people that are, it's more than that for sure, but I'm just saying, like, there's a small amount of people, small percentage, that can afford to make this move. I think there's an essence that's replicatable in different markets. It's going, we can see what's wrong here, we can see how this money moves in the negative senses. So if they can create their market, how can we create our market? There are people who do want to invest in art. You can invest in art and still make that that industry viable, where it's not just people getting tax write-offs or people just inflating the prices and everything like that. So more so right now, the stage I'm in with that level of it is observing how the money moves, observing how the players move, in order to better understand that, to create our own space with it, versus trying to. I think honestly, I think it's easier. I think it's easier to become like Ariana Grande than it is to become Basquiat.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know what I'm
absolutely.
saying?
Yeah.
So it's going like, I want to understand the essences and the structure of that, because it should not be that unachievable.
Fucking.
It shouldn't be that
Like
unachievable.
the top like 1% of like art that's being sold, they're all dead artists.
Yeah.
Like and it's the money is like, I forgot the statistic. It was like 10 times the amount of like the music recording industry. I was like, how's that possible?
But like knowing how fucked up it is at the top, do you want to be there?
That's what I was thinking too.
Right. So it's not so much wanting to be there, right? No. No, right?
No.
It would be great to like have that money for sure, right? But what I'm saying is, if that's the primary market, the first market, there's secondary markets. There's people who still appreciate art and will still invest in it over those 6 figures in art that aren't just moving money around. We just saw Picasso, like yesterday, whatever, sell for $113 million. this dude's been publicly canceled over and over again in our modern years, but they still understand that it's an asset at this point, so they don't care. It's buying an estate, it's buying a company. It's ridiculous. But what I'm saying is like, so specifically what we've been focusing on is like black in every color, right? But what we're talking about is education on art finance, to understand that you can like create a market through art. Through art, you can invest in the artist, which then benefits because the artist is active in their community. So if we can get that conversation, that message going to more people that actually are trying to invest and grow different spaces, going, oh, we want to put art into the artists that are doing artist talks. We want to do art with artists that are doing these things for the schools nearby, all that kind of stuff. I think there's room for more education on what art investing can do. And it's not to shoot for the stars to say, like, hopefully this will be valued at $1 million, but it's going, if I give this artist $50,000, I know they're going to do good with it. And by them doing good with it, increases the value of it so that, oh yeah, I have an asset now. That artist just went on to help this foundation, all that kind of stuff. So the intrinsic value, the actual value of that has now increased over the 5 years because they've done the things that they're going to do. Versus that market that I'm talking about is just they're like, oh, well, this guy appraised it, my friend appraised it for 10 times as much. So now it's making my portfolio go up. And now this artist gets to, they don't even get to eat. The artist doesn't get anything on the appraisal. They get nothing, you know, except the
status.
Yeah, the status and everything around that. So more so it's observing how they do that to understand what can be done better and actually be impactful and effective.
At our scale.
At our scale, exactly. Yeah. So my biggest interest right now is getting more people to understand the positive effects of investing in art. It's not giving this dream of if you buy it at 100,000, it'll be worth $1 million, because that's that market. That's this other shit. It's going, yes, they're active in the market. They're active in getting their work in front of people. So innately, it will increase. I'm not saying I'm going to make you rich by selling you this art, but you are doing more than you think you are by paying this artist rent for the month, by letting them go further and go further.
And the artist contributing something more than just the art.
Exactly.
You know, it's a community to what's going on.
So that's where I think there's opportunity to stress the increasing of the value of the work by empowering the artists themselves. So I think the more people that we can get in purchasing art at like $1,000 to $5,000, when they might want to go do this or that, it's going, no, you're directly affecting and impacting the things you care about by giving it to this person.
Well, the 101 of the being a great art collector is buying what you like, and it's not buying what you think is going to be worth something in X amount of years. Right. So if you buy for taste reasons, then you're already fucking wealthy. I think because I've had people buy my work, and genuinely like some of the nicest people I've ever met, just supporting me, and they don't know, like, yo, you just like help me keep my studio for another 2 months.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You know, like this is like incredible.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't make this painting thinking like that. You know. Yeah. But I want to be able to come to a point like where I have I know like with money comes control. And so I want to get to a point where I'm selling these paintings so I can make a life for myself. I don't want to be taken advantage of, but sometimes that's so out of our control. So the best thing we can do, I think, is just keep a level head and, you know, surround ourselves with the people that, you know, don't give us like the modern day ick. Or like, you know, like move with like a level head, and so you don't get fucked over in a sense, you know. And then, you know, there's so many people at high levels that are like doing well, you know. And I think we can all do that. Basquiat is just like one of those figures that was just like at a time it was just a fucked up time. It's just hard like that for him. Like there weren't any black painters, like, you know. So for him to come up, everybody was gonna take advantage of him. He was on, like, everybody felt like they could do that. I think like all of us in this room have the tools to not have that happen to us if we do it correctly. So we can all push towards something that's whatever we want without it being a negative thing, you know. if that's what you want, to answer your question, my way of answering is like, I think I visualize it good enough for me where I'm happy on a farm somewhere doing a painting in a fucking barn. Like, selling 50K paintings out of somewhere in Minnesota.
Well, I'm curious though. So for you guys, what being a successful artist, what does that look like?
I think it's so simple for me.
Yeah.
I just want to be able to have a studio and then just create large works. That's it. Like, to me, like, if I get to that point where I'm creating like 200 by 200 works of art, like I'm in heaven. I'm where I am. I'm where I need to be, you know. And like, if I can create art on that scale, like, that's how I know. Like, I'm successful.
I don't want to interrupt you because, like, I think I'm already falling into the trap of control though, because some people, like, some collectors are like, small is in right now. So I'm like, fuck, I gotta paint small now. I was like going big and bigger and bigger, and they're like, they come to my studio for visits, like, it's too big. We can't really, like, really right now they're buying small. The market's small, and I'm like, fuck, I gotta paint small.
Yo, no, that's my thing right now. Is I'm like,
Because we're in a recession.
yeah, I know.
Yeah. So it's like,
But no, I'm caught in this with quite a few of the projects that we're working right now. Though, it's like, can I afford my audience? Right? Can I afford the people that can purchase my product?
But also, what's so interesting about what you said is, you said you just want to be able to create art, but you can do that right now. So you want to be able to make money off of it.
Yeah.
And this is a conversation I always have with creators across every single industry. It's like, if that's what brings you peace, you can do that right now. You can create art, you can make time to do that. But if you want to just live off of doing that, it's always going to feel like a fucking job.
Yeah.
It'll never stop feeling like a job.
Yeah.
And the quicker we accept, and I know it, but the quicker we accept that, I feel like the easier it is for us to find the balance.
Yeah.
And the longer it takes us to accept that, the more like, it hits you like a ton of bricks when you realize that, because we were talking about this earlier, like, damn, I don't want to wake up one day and realize I hate this shit, you know? And so, like, that's what I always tell people, is like, you could do that. You could literally paint for the love of just painting. You don't even have to monetize it whatsoever. But if you want to live off of that, it will eventually always feel like a job at some point.
Bloom's pulling up with the Josh.
But you were gonna say something.
Yeah, you didn't say what a successful artist for you. Like, what does that look like, dude? I want to know what that looks like.
I guess for me, it's similar to him. I just want to like have a big ass studio and be able to just paint all day. But other than that, it's like I've always wanted to give. You know, like the feeling when you come out of a movie and you're just like, that was a good movie.
Yeah.
And, like,
I love the characters and
it's
shit.
just like that little sense of like bliss, or like, you know, like when you're driving, you're like, that's a great sunset, and it just makes you like happy for that little tiny amount of time. It's like that's like the feeling that I like love the most, like the surprisingly happy feeling out of nowhere, and I kind of just want to like give that to people. So I guess like through feedback, that's like my version of success, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you feel like because I feel like when I was saying that, you were just like, do you feel like the whole, like, it's gonna always feel like a job at a certain point once you get to that level of being able to just to do that?
Maybe at one point. I'm just not there yet, so I don't
Yeah.
know. And I try not to think too much into, like, you guys are talking a lot about like the business side, and I'm kind of sitting here like, wow, like I don't fucking think about that, because I think it stresses me out. That's why I don't think about it.
It's
Yeah.
fucking stressful.
It's stressful.
Yeah, but I kind of try to. For me, like, I see art as like a super slow burn,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
if I were to ever get successful or famous in it, it would be years and years and years, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And I sort of formulated my life so that I'm getting enough money to pay the bills, but also giving myself time to create and a space to create.
Yeah.
So you found that balance. So you do
Yeah.
something outside of creating art to like make money, pay your
Yeah.
bills and all that stuff. Yeah, so
And-
that's what I think I was
and I
trying
s-
to allude to is that.
Yeah, and I still have more than enough time to create, and it's like, yeah, like I'm okay with not being a successful, like financially successful artist, because I think it's something I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life regardless. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the thing that I feel like I want more people to like separate those definitions, because even when I'm thinking about successful, that's why I was trying to like ask what the definition of that was.
Uh-huh.
Like successful artists, I'm not saying you have to make millions and millions of dollars, whatever it is. Like I'm not expecting that to be anyone's outcome. I'm going, yeah, absolutely. The studio, in whatever way, shape, or form that comes to play, that doesn't have to innately mean that you made a bunch of money. It's that if the goal is to have access to a studio where you can make 200 by 200, you might meet someone through fucking like aviation lessons that's like, yeah, I got a fucking airplane hangar you can do all these things in, and that's fucking success, right?
Yeah.
So it's more so like finding those ways to detach it from like, oh yeah, it's not that I have to make so much money, I just have to know someone has an airplane hangar. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's all that more than anything.
Yeah.
It's like, get that success part of it, whatever that might mean, because it's never, I don't think it's ever directly associated with the financial outcome. It's that there are things that you know cost some for sure, but if it's that, you know, you just want to paint like a Sistine Chapel somewhere, and that's your definition of success, then like find that fucking ceiling. Just do that. Yeah, so it's more so, I find a lot of artists that have not thought about what that definition of success is, but they have an expectation. They haven't thought about it, but they just think success is this abstract where people talk about money.
But that's dangerous.
Yeah.
Because then you get there and then you feel like shit.
Well, that's what I'm saying though, is every level of achievement, one, it's achievable, but two, like, you keep going with all of that. It's not a dollar amount, it's not one specific canvas or anything like that. Like, every time you finish, it's the same thing as finishing a canvas. It's, I wanted to get this one done. I got it done, now what? In my mind.
Well, you're talking about like scaling up,
Yeah.
and I was talking to you. I said this earlier. It's like,
Okay.
I said this earlier. It's like you can make art anywhere.
Yeah.
So you can make the biggest art outside. You can make the biggest piece outdoors that you can humanly make. Just like put two sticks in the ground and maybe build a fake wall or whatever if you have the space go. And that's like this thing I was realizing because I ran into a friend recently and we were talking and it was just like, he really opened my eyes to just be like, a lot of people talk about they need the space to create. And I know that's true because that's why I needed my studio. It's like I spent 10 years to get a studio and I was like, I knew that was true. Then I got the studio and I'm thinking like, what would I have done 10 years ago thinking about what if I had the studio? That brain is bigger than what I can imagine right now. I'm not doing all of those things where I thought I would be doing with the studio. I'm not saying that it's not possible, but it was just like one of those things I was working towards that. I think my situation is just different in general, so I can't really say that's like how everybody should think because not everybody has even a space outside to do it. Some people's outside, it's too dangerous to be outside to make art. Mm-hmm. You can't do that. So I think it still comes from a place of privilege for me to say that, but it's just like, I always thought like my younger self was always just like, when I get a studio big enough, because I got my first studio in Sacramento and there was rats running around like shitting on my art, like literally shitting on my art. So that was like the first audience to shit on my work. And I was just like, when I get a bigger studio, my work's gonna be better.
Yeah, I just when I say like I just want to work 200 by 200, like I want to create art that is fucking so impactful. I guess like that it has the necessary like that's why it's 200 by 200.
Yeah.
Love it.
Rotation.
But I want to say hi now.
Okay. Yeah.
Ignore me.
Well, I know. You just got here. I know.
It's all good.
I know. That is so rude. I was like, what? Late conversation.
Oh, it's already 9:30, so okay. Yeah.
Been going. Absolutely. Good.